Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So today, on average, payments are going to be going out to some beneficiaries of Social Security of right around $1,827 on average. We're going to be going over who is going to be receiving these payments as well as the rest of the payment schedule for this month in May. Also, we're going to be going over that big meeting with President Joe Biden and the 4 congressional leaders that happened yesterday as far as raising the debt ceiling, which of course this is going to have huge implications on the timely payments of Social Security next month in June and of course in July as well. So we're going to be going over the updates on that as well. Now, before I go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so if you're wondering how that meeting went yesterday with Biden and the 4 congressional leaders, if you thought that maybe it would have went well and maybe they would have reached some sort of an agreement, well, according to Kevin McCarthy, the meeting really didn't go all that well. So, according to CNN, McCarthy says that there was no movement in debt ceiling negotiations after meeting at the White House. So, President Joe Biden and congressional leaders maintained their positions on a potential debt ceiling deal after they met on Tuesday at the White House. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said, following the meeting between top congressional leaders and the president, McCarthy said that there was no progress made in reaching a deal. He said, quote, "The House has raised the debt ceiling and passed the bill. That's why we had a meeting today. Everybody in this meeting reiterated the positions they were at. I didn't see any new movement. The president said the staff should get back together, but I was very clear with the president. We have now just 2 weeks to go." And according to the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, he has been urging President Biden to cut a deal with McCarthy after the meeting at the White House. Whether or not they do, we'll just have to wait and see. So Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell returned to the Senate following the White House meeting over the debt ceiling, describing the situation was just like 2019 and calling on President Joe Biden to strike a deal with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. McConnell recalled the situation in 2019 when Republicans controlled the White House and the Senate while Democrats had the House. He said, quote, "The way the deal finally came together is when I told President Trump, even though he was not excited about it, he had to reach a deal with Nancy Pelosi." He said this is what Biden must also do with McCarthy. He said, quote, "This can only be solved by the one person in America who can sign something into law and by the majority of the opposite party in divided government." Hopefully that's the direction in which we were headed now because we're running out of time. McConnell also pledged that the U.S. will not default. He said, quote, "The United States is not going to default. It never has and it never will. However, elections have consequences. We now have divided government. We didn't have divided government last year." So he's pretty much saying here that McCarthy and Biden need to reach a deal, that the same thing happened back in 2019 whenever Nancy Pelosi was requesting that Trump include some negotiation in regards to raising the debt ceiling. There were some things that Pelosi wanted. Trump didn't necessarily want the things that Pelosi wanted, but for us not to default, Trump eventually had to give in to the things that Pelosi wanted. So McConnell is saying the exact same thing needs to happen here, where Biden needs to give in to some of the things that Republicans and Kevin McCarthy want. Whether or not he actually does give in, we'll just have to wait and see. But meanwhile, of course, we had the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer very upset with what Republicans are doing right now. So according to CNN, Schumer blasts McCarthy for refusing to take default off the table following the White House meeting. So Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer slammed House Speaker Kevin McCarthy Tuesday for refusing to take the prospect of default off the table in negotiations over legislation to raise the nation's debt limit. The Senate Majority Leader told reporters that the Speaker was endangering America following a meeting with congressional leaders and President Joe Biden. Schumer said, quote, "What's really troubling about the Speaker's position is it's a partisan bill, and he says take it or leave it or we could default. By not taking default off the table, Speaker McCarthy is gravely endangering America and making it much harder to make progress on budget negotiations." So obviously Schumer is not too happy with the way things are going. Of course, Republicans are going to negotiate the same exact thing happened back in 2019. Now, as far as the next meeting goes, they are going to meet once again on Friday. So hopefully between now and then they are able to come closer to reaching some sort of deal, because if not, it's going to be extremely troubling, because according to Kevin McCarthy, they need to reach some sort of debt ceiling deal by next week in order to reach their June 1st deadline. Now, by June 1st, they must raise the debt ceiling. So they're saying that they need to reach a deal next week because they still need to put this in the bill. Then they need to pass it through the House. They need to pass it through the Senate. And then Biden needs to sign it into law. So they're running out of time here. They need to reach a deal next week. If they don't, that could be extremely troubling, because again, we could default on our debts, which means that the timely payments of Social Security could be called into question. They could be late by maybe a day or two, maybe a week, who really knows. Veterans benefits could be late as well. We could see job losses of around 2.5 million people. Federal employees could be laid off. We just don't know what's going to happen. This is unfamiliar territory. This has never happened. So we just have to wait and see whether or not they get something done. Now, if they're not able to reach a deal, President Joe Biden is still considering invoking the 14th Amendment to raise the debt ceiling by himself. Whether or not he actually does that, we'll just have to wait and see. He had no problems erasing $20,000 worth of student loan debt, so maybe he will do this unilaterally as well. Now, separate of the whole debt ceiling debacle that's currently going on, payments in May are definitely still going to be going out on a timely basis. June are the only ones really in question at this point. I think they will get a deal done, but today payments are going to be going out $1,827 on average. So according to Marca, Social Security payments are typically made on a monthly basis, and the payment date usually depends on the recipient's birth date and the day of the month on which they began receiving benefits. So you're going to see the payment schedule up on the screen right now. So today it is going to be going to those recipients who were born between the 1st and 10th of the month. That's going to be going out today, May 10th. Now, if you were born between the 11th and 20th of the month, you're going to be receiving it next Wednesday on the 17th. And if you were born after the 20th of the month, you'll receive yours on the following Wednesday on May 24th. So again, you're going to see the schedule up on the screen there. Of course, if you're an SSI recipient, you would have received your payment back on May 1st. And then, of course, you're going to receive your next payment after that on June 1st. Now, in June, if you're receiving SSI, you're actually going to be receiving two payments. So the first payment is going to be coming on June 1st, and the second payment is going to be coming on June 30th. Now, your June 30th is actually going to just simply be your July 1st payment. July 1st is actually going to be falling on a Saturday, and anytime the first of a month falls on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a holiday, you're actually going to be receiving your payment the previous business day. So in that case, you're going to be receiving your payment on Friday, June 30th. So again, two payments for SSI beneficiaries in June, and for everyone else, the payments are going to be coming on sort of the normal date. Now, if you normally receive your payment on the 3rd of the month, you're actually going to be receiving your payment on June 2nd. So one day earlier for you all. And then for the rest, the payments are going to be going out on June 14th, June 21st, and June 28th. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.